So, one of the most common type of app that people put on their phones for birding are field guides. So, I'm going to start with the Merlin app from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. I've already done a complete video strictly looking at Merlin, so I'm just going to touch on Merlin as a reference point for what some of the other field guides look like. So the field guide portion of Merlin is the Explore Birds. So I'm going to go into this, and right off the top you can see that it is telling you it knows where you are and what day it is. So it's already filtering the list based on what you are likely to see where you are. And again, I'm not going to get into all the details because we have already covered this all in another video. I'm going to look, so you see the list of birds. You can go to shorebirds. I'm gonna pick killdeer, and as we've already shown, you see the basics. You've got a series of photos, you have calls, and you have a map. That's the the basics of what you're going to get really in any field guide. Okay. So let's see how that compares to some of the paid apps. So my favorite bird electronic field guide is the Sibley Guide to the Birds. Also my favorite paper field guide. But this is what the electronic version looks like. First, it is organized. Well, you have a choice, but by default, it's organized in taxonomic order, which is the same as Merlin, which is essentially organized in the way that we understand the family tree of birds. So ducks and geese are at the start, grouse, loons, grebes, cormorants, and on down through the list by family. And as our scientific understanding evolves, we are learning, and sometimes the taxonomic order gets mixed up. But it's the standard way that field guides are organized, and once you get used to it, it just kind of makes sense. So I'm going to look at the killdeer on here, and there's killdeer. I look at it. Now, the first thing you notice, these are drawings. These are illustrations. They are not photographs. And sometimes drawings, illustrations can give you a more generalized picture of what the bird actually looks like. I actually prefer illustrations to photos, but that's personal preference. So you've got a series of photos. Simply always gives you a bird in flight photo showing above and below for every species, which can be very useful. It has very similar features to what you would find again in Merlin or a typical field guide. It's got generally speaking, a more complete description than you're going to find in Merlin. It is going to show you, on an Ontario level, what the seasonal status is of the bird. You've got maps, you've got calls, Um, the other really great feature of this one is the comparison feature. So if I go to plovers and I want to compare a semi-palmated plover to a killdeer, there they are. Semi-palmated plover, killdeer, and I can, so what does a juvenile look like of each one? And I can compare. That's a extremely useful feature. So basically, Sipley's drawings are excellent, and the other thing you'll notice, you can set your range. You can get the whole guide, or you can set it for just where you are right now, Ontario. I mean, I could go in and change my location. I'm going to change my location to Quebec, and I'll get a whole different series of birds. And that is persistent. Like, once you set it, it remembers that until you go back and change it again. So you don't, every time you open the app, you don't have to go and tell it you're in Ontario. It knows. So that is the Sibley guide. It's one of the more expensive field guides you can get, but it is, in my opinion anyway, it is worth the money. Okay, one of the classic field guides is the Peterson Field Guide to the Birds, and there is an electronic version now. Most of these guides, the bird search, it's not nearly as useful as Merlin. Merlin is much simpler and more effective, but Browse Birds takes you into the field guide, and again, it's organized by family. So I'm going to go again into the shorebirds. These are the plates from the printed book. You can flip through them. You can zoom. You can zoom in on the plates from the book. Now, if I just tap on killdeer, it takes me to killdeer. It's a little variable, but it does have, in many cases, a very extensive description, giving, in some cases showing the eggs, nesting information, more than a typical field guide. And you can flip through the various illustrations from the guide. Again, of course, it's got a map. It's got songs. In this case, it only has a very limited selection of songs. So that is Peterson. You can, being able to browse through the pages like this is, it's like having a book. And you see something that's interesting, you can go and have a closer look. So that is Peterson's. Another common guide is the Audubon guide, and it's not very expensive, but unfortunately it's not the best guide either. Again, they have the identify a bird. It's a much more cumbersome process than you would have with Merlin, and probably not as useful. If I go to the field guide section, it does not use taxonomic order. It lists families, but alphabetically. So if you're used to a typical field guide where a cardinal would be at the back of the book. It's up here because it starts with a C. So if we go into something like sparrows, where there's lots of them, go into that family. They are listed alphabetically again. You go in, they are, yeah, again, the amount of information is variable. They do have multiple images. It does not, in any persistent way, narrow down your search for your location. Like for Toronto, no, it does not do anything like that. They have a variety of songs and calls for each bird. They've got the range maps, but it's honestly, it's not as useful as what you can get for free with Merlin. So it is not high on my list of useful apps. One more app that I'd like to show you that is not terribly well known, but is quite useful, is called BirdNet. And it is also a project from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. I think it's a collaborative effort. So when you open it, it gives you a sonogram. Essentially what BirdNet is, it is Shazam for bird calls. And I tested this a year ago and I was not that impressed. It has come a long way. So you can see the sonogram, you can pause it, you can reset it. So, I mean, most of us are not trained at reading sonograms. I'm going to use a bird call, and to show you really how you can use it. Okay, I'm going to take that section where I was using the bird call, because I can see that's where it was registering those sounds, and then I pick that, and I'll say analyze, and it correctly identified that as a human, because it said that's not any bird call I know. Now what you can do is you can go into you can save observations. So I have some that I recorded and saved that are actual birds. So here's one from May 16th. Let's see what it thinks. So it shows me on a map where I was, right by the assembly hall. It's thinking, and it picked it up as a house sparrow. Not sure if this will come through. Let's see if I can listen to that. Not much to go on, but it picked that out. Let's go and see if I can find let's see if I can identify this one. Okay, that's the sound, and let's see what it thinks. Baltimore Oriole, that is correct. So it can take a pretty bad recording and figure out what it was you heard. So, while all of these apps have songs that, you can play the song of the bird, if you hear a song and are trying to figure out what it was, BirdNet is what you want. It really is um, a pretty amazing app. And again, it is free. So highly recommend BirdNet. Uh, the one thing you will find, and there are some help files with it, if you try to keep, you listen, you stop the sonogram, and you just select that piece where the bird was singing, you will have better results. If you mix in a lot of other background noises, other bird calls, it's going to have a harder time picking out the one that you're interested in. But if you can isolate the recording to just that song, it can do a pretty good job for you. Okay, and that is BirdNet. The internet is a big place, but I just want to have a quick look at 3 websites. The first one is called All About Birds from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. It is a treasure trove of information about birds, birding, ways to improve your skills and grow your knowledge. Uh, there is all kinds of things in here. Courses, bird ID. Let's go to birds. Let's go to the bird guide. So I'm going to go straight to look by family. So this is, you'll notice they don't even have an option to go alphabetically by taxonomy or by shape. So I'm going to go once again to where we were before and look at our friend the killdeer. Now you'll notice there are more birds listed here than there were in Merlin in the plover family, because this is all of them in North America, not just the ones you might be likely to see in Ontario. So if we go to killdeer, you will see photos, a map, more detailed information than you will see in Merlin. Things like habitat, food, cool facts. There's a lot more depth to the website than there is to Merlin. Great place to check out more details when you get home. Now, you may recognize these photos. These are the same photos that are in the Merlin app. So a lot of the same content, but it's a great resource. And the site is absolutely filled with all kinds of information. So that is definitely worth having a look for bird identification, for improving your knowledge, all kinds of things. The next one is actually related, because eBird is actually run by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. eBird is essentially a citizen science project where thousands of people enter their checklists, their observations all over the world, and they create a database of what birds are found in what parts of the world, abundance. Um, there's there's all kinds of things in here. Um, Again, you can explore species, which is going to be pretty similar to what you're going to find on All About Birds. Um, you can go to uh, species maps. That is can be a useful one. So if let's go to our friend the killdeer. Now, it's found it for us. Figured out what we were looking for. This is the worldwide map for the killdeer. You can zoom in. It'll take a little while to come up with a. You can often useful to click on the show points sooner. Oh, we're not there yet. We're not. There. Now we are deep enough into the map that it is showing us actual locations of sightings. What you can do in this, depending again on the species and what you're trying to find out, you could say maybe from January to March of this year. So that's kind of early in the year for killdeer. And let's see. Well, there were quite a few sightings even that early in the year. Let's change it. January, February. Ooh, it just zoomed out on me here. But you can start to see not nearly so many. You can click on any one of these points and Tommy Thompson Park. At the end of February, there were sightings of killdeer this year at Tommy Thompson Park in Toronto. So that's the kind of thing you can look at in the Explore section. You can get bar charts for, pick a place, pick Ontario. You could say and it is going to come up with a list of abundance charts. Like if you've watched the Merlin video, you will see charts like this next to every species. So it's basically showing you which months each species, what its abundance is. Thin lines are rare. The thicker the line, the more abundant they are. So it's that's rock pigeon, pretty thick line all the way through for Ontario. So that's the kind of thing you can slice and dice their data every which way, and if you are keeping lists and you have targets, you can get alerts of when someone sees a bird that you haven't seen yet, if you're really into listing. It's it's an amazing resource, and it's a great thing. Once you kind of get past the beginner level, it's a great way to record your bird sightings. It will keep track of everything that you've recorded on eBird, and it will it'll make your lists for you. So it's very handy that way. The last one that I want to look at is called iNaturalist. So here's my home page. What this is useful for is if you want to do a similar feature to what Merlin can do, and you've got a photo of a bird and you don't know what it is, you want a second opinion. So I'm going to grab a photo. It has picked up the date from my metadata on the photo. Now I'm going to give it a location. You can pick a location on a map, or you can pin locations. So this bird was, I have pinned Colonel Sam Smith Park. I'm going to move the circle up there because that's roughly where it was. I can change the size of that circle if you want to be a little more vague. So I've given it a date and a location, and it's going to give me some suggestions. And I can view the suggestions. So this is its top suggestion. And of course that is what it was. You can see, abundance. This is when people see them as they're coming through in migration. Much harder to find them on breeding territory. Okay, so I will flip back to that tab, and I am going to say, it will also tell you, if it is something that has been seen in the area. Those are the, you can look at things that have not been seen near you. Anyway, I will pick Scarlet Tanager, and I could add notes. I will submit it, and then it would be into the iNaturalist database, and it becomes what they consider research grade if another human being looks at it and agrees. So there I am. I've got the Scarlet Tanager. If I want to go in at this point, I can go in and I can add information. I can say that it was alive. I can say that it's an adult. And I can say it was a male. It's also showing me sightings of locations of sightings of Scarlet Tanager in the area. The other thing that this iNaturalist has is projects. So there is a Colonel Sam Smith Park project, so that's I will add it to that. And then I can go back, and there are my sightings. So those are, in my opinion anyway, the three most useful websites for getting started in birding. So Lots of things to explore in all of those. Certainly iNaturalist is useful for all kinds of things beyond birds. It's not specifically for birds, but if it's a good place if you want to get a second opinion for an identification, if you have a decent photo that you can use. And that's it. So get out there and find yourself some birds.